For a very long time, the great beings of the galaxy looked at Earth and saw nothing important. Humans lived on one small blue planet. They fought each other with fire and metal. They built cities, then destroyed them. They laughed and cried and died young. The old races of the stars called them children at best and pests at worst. None of them thought humans would ever leave their tiny home world in any way that mattered. The galaxy was calm and ordered. The Concord ruled it all. Many species joined over millions of years. The tall crystal folk from Vexar, the gentle cloud swimmers of Nebula Prime, the stone thinkers of Granite Vale. All of them shared knowledge and ships and rules. They had seen young races rise before. Most burned out fast. Some learned to behave and joined the quiet order. Earth looked the same as the others, a noisy, short-lived species that would never touch the stars. Then, in the Earth year 2447, a human ship broke free of the solar wind. Faster than light, for the first time, the Concord noticed right away. They sent one silver diplomatic ship to meet it. The ship carried ambassadors from 12 great species. They wore shining robes and spoke in calm voices. They explained the rules of the galaxy. No one expands without permission. No one builds weapons that can crack planets. No one takes more than their share. Humans would get junior status. They would be safe, but silent. They would pay tribute in rare metals and stay inside clear lines on the star maps. The human leaders listened. They wore plain suits and smiled. They asked polite questions about trade and travel. They signed the papers with steady hands. The ambassadors felt pleased. They saw no anger in the human eyes. They saw no fear either, just calm faces. The silver ship left Sol system and sent word back to the Concord Council. Humanity accepted their place. The galaxy could stay peaceful. Behind closed doors on Earth, the mood was different. Admirals gathered in dark rooms. Engineers met in hidden labs. Scientists worked without sleep. They spoke in low voices. They said the aliens thought humans were weak. They said the aliens saw spears and arrows when they looked at Earth history. They said the aliens had no idea what humans could do when pushed. The leaders made a plan. They would build in silence. They would grow strong in the dark. They would wait. Colonies started on cold worlds, far from prying eyes. Rogue planets with no sun became home to human bases. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, shipyards grew inside hollow rocks. Miners pulled rare elements from asteroids and sent them to secret forges. No one in the galaxy saw these places. Scouts from the Concord flew past and found nothing, because humans learned to hide heat and light and radio waves. Ships took shape in the shadows, long, thin shapes, made for speed and silence. Some carried engines that burned antimatter. Others held weapons that moved almost as fast as light itself. Years passed. Watched Earth grow a little. They saw new mining stations near Mars. They saw small research outposts on the moons of Jupiter. They smiled and said the humans were learning their place. They sent more diplomats to check on progress. The humans always welcomed them with food and smiles. The diplomats left happy. They wrote reports that said all was well. Humanity was obedient. In secret, the work never stopped. Engineers tested new drives that folded space without a ripple. Scientists built machines that could copy themselves from dust and rock. They called these von Neumann swarms, small at first, then bigger. Each one ate metal and stone and made more of itself. Admirals ran war games in virtual worlds. They practiced moves no one had ever seen. They planned for days when the galaxy might push too hard. Most humans on Earth knew nothing of this life. They worked normal jobs. They raised children. They watched stars at night and dreamed of travel. They trusted their leaders to keep the peace. Did not know the full truth. They did not need to know yet. Then came the first small tests. The Concord asked for more tribute. They wanted certain rare isotopes only found in deep gas giants. Humans agreed without argument. Ships went out and came back full. The Concord praised the cooperation. They said humans were model juniors. Behind the praise, the Concord leaders talked in private. They said humans were easy to control. They said the species had no real fight left. They said Earth would never challenge the old order. They were wrong. On Earth, the whispers grew louder. Admirals looked at star charts and marked weak points. Engineers ran final checks on hidden weapons. Scientists smiled when their swarms passed every test. The leaders met one last time. They looked at each other and nodded. They knew the day might come soon. They knew humans had waited long enough. They knew patience had its limits. The galaxy stayed quiet and sure of itself. And science. They built grand stations in bright nebulae. They danced on worlds of glass and light. They never guessed what waited in the dark beyond their maps. They never guessed that one small blue planet held a fire no one could put out. Humans waited. They built. They planned. They remembered every slight, every rule, every smug word from alien mouths. They kept their faces calm. They kept their voices soft. They kept their true strength hidden. The stars turned, and time moved forward. The Concord slept easy in their ancient power. They did not hear the faint hum of engines deep in the void. They did not see the shadows growing longer. They did not feel the change coming. Earth stayed silent. But silence is not weakness. Silence can be the last thing heard before everything breaks. In the year 2381, a human mining colony sat on a small moon called Kale 4. The moon orbited a gas giant in a quiet corner of space. Humans had claimed it years before under the old rules. They dug deep for rare crystals that powered ship drives. The colony held 30,000 souls. Families lived in warm domes. Children played in low gravity. Schools taught math and history and hope. Miners sang old songs while they worked. Life felt normal and good. Then the Vexari came. The Vexari were tall beings made of living crystal. Their bodies glowed with inner light. They moved like slow wind through glass. They spoke in clear, ringing tones that carried far. Their ships looked like giant sharp gems floating in black space. The Vexari saw the human moon and wanted the crystals for themselves. They checked old maps and said the claim was wrong. They said humans had no right to be there. They did not ask questions. They did not send warnings. Without a word, their fleet arrived. 30 heavy cruisers formed a ring around Kale 4. Their plasma lances lit up bright white. The first shot hit the main dome. It burned through metal and air in seconds. The colony alarm screamed for 10 heartbeats, then stopped. Fire bloomed outward. Oxygen fed the blaze. People ran, but there was nowhere to go. Families held each other in the last moments. Children cried out for parents who could not reach them. 30,000 lives ended in bright flashes. No one escaped. No distress call got out. The Vexari ships stayed long enough to make sure nothing lived. Then they left. Word reached Earth, slow at first. A backup probe finally sent the data. It showed the attack in cold, clear images. The council watched in silence. Faces went pale, hands clenched. No one spoke for a long minute. Then one admiral stood. He said only 2 words. Remember them. The room nodded as one. Earth sent no angry messages. No fleets launched. No threats filled the airwaves. The government told the people the truth in calm voices. They showed the videos. They named every lost soul. They held quiet memorials across every city. Flags stayed at half-mast for a full year. People wept in streets and homes. They lit candles. They wrote names on walls. They asked why no one stopped it. They got no answers that satisfied. The Concord heard about Kale 4. They called a meeting. The Vexari elder spoke first. He said the humans broke rules. They said the action was necessary to keep order. Other species nodded. Some looked uneasy, but said nothing. The council voted to call it justified. They sent a note to Earth. It said the matter was closed. It said humans should learn from this. It said more tribute would be expected soon. Earth read the note and stayed quiet. No reply came. The galaxy waited for anger or protest. Nothing arrived. Days turned to weeks. The Concord leaders smiled. They said humans knew their place. They said the lesson worked. They turned back to their trade and art, and long lives vanished. A research station on a frozen world near Barnard's Star. It held 5,000 people studying deep ice cores. The Vexari claimed the site overlapped their old claim. They struck again. No survivors. No warning. Just clean, bright death. A third colony fell. This time a farming world, with green fields under domes. 10,000 souls gone. The pattern grew clear. The Vexari targeted human outposts one after another. They said each place broke some small rule. They said humans spread too far. They said it was for the greater good. Billions on Earth watched the feeds. They saw homes burn. They saw faces they knew turn to ash. They saw children reach up, then fall. They felt rage rise slow and deep, like a tide that never stops. People stopped smiling in public. They worked harder. They trained longer. They whispered in groups. They said enough. They said never again. The government still said little. Public statements stayed short. They spoke of grief. They spoke of patience. They spoke of patience. Strength in silence. Behind doors the plan took shape. Admirals met every day. Engineers tested weapons in deep space. Scientists pushed machines to new limits. The hidden shipyards worked faster. Dark hulls grew longer. Engines hummed louder. Swarms learned to hide better. One night the leaders gathered in a room under a mountain. They looked at star maps marked with red. They counted the dead. They read the names. They felt the weight. Then the president spoke. He said one sentence. "We remember their faces." The room answered as one. "We remember." A single message went out on every human channel. It repeated over and over in every language. Remember their faces. No explanation followed. No call to arms. No promise of war. Just those 4 words looping forever. People heard it in their homes, in their ships, in their dreams. It became a quiet chant, a promise carved in every heart. The Concord watched from far. They saw no fleets, no loud speeches, no burning cities on Earth. Humans broke. They said the species had no spine. They said fear kept them in line. The Vexari elder broadcast to the galaxy. He stood tall in crystal light. He said, "Let this be their only lesson." He said humans will stay small now. He said the Concord remains strong. The galaxy believed it. Trade ships moved as always. Diplomats met in bright halls. Laughter echoed in grand stations. Stars shone steady. No one noticed the shadows growing. No one felt the cold wind from the edge of known space. No one saw the first faint trails of tungsten moving slow and patient across light years. No one heard the soft click of machines waking in the dark. Earth waited. The rage did not fade. It grew colder. It grew sharper. It grew patient. The people worked. They hid. They remembered. Every day more joined the silent work. Every night more names were spoken. Every heart carried the same fire. The Vexari prepared their greatest show of force. 2,000 crystal dreadnoughts gathered. Like a second constellation, they pointed toward Sol. They said they would teach the final lesson. They said humanity would kneel or vanish. They said the Concord would watch and approve. The galaxy held its breath. It waited for humans to beg. It waited for surrender. It waited for the end. Earth stayed silent. But silence hides many things, and some silences carry the promise of thunder. The first strike came without noise or light or warning. Deep in the long dark between stars, thin tungsten rods had drifted for decades. They started their journey from hidden railguns beyond the orbit of Pluto. Heavy and silent, they moved at 99% the speed of light. No engines burned, no signals leaked, no heat showed on any scan. They followed paths set years before, aimed at hearts of enemy worlds. The Vexari homeworld glowed bright in its system, a jewel of crystal spires and floating cities. Its sun bathed everything in soft rainbow light. Billions lived there, secure in their ancient power. They traded stories of glory. They planned harvests of new stars. They never looked for shadows in the void. Then the first rod hit. It struck the equatorial band at impossible speed. Mass turned to pure energy in a flash. The crust split like dry clay. A wound 10,000 kilometers wide opened. Fire and molten rock sprayed into space. The planet shuddered, boiled away in minutes. Oceans flashed to steam. Cities shattered into glittering dust. The core groaned under the blow. Half the world tore free and spun away in pieces. The sun dimmed behind rising debris. Before the Vexari could scream, more rods arrived. They came in waves, spaced seconds apart. Each one carved deeper. Each one broke more. The planet lost a third of its mass in under 1 hour. What remained spun wild and dark. No light came from the ruins. Only silence followed. Panic raced through the Concorde. Fleets scrambled. Scouts rushed to see what happened. Reports came back broken and short. They spoke of impacts without ships. They spoke of weapons from nowhere. They spoke of worlds cracked open like eggs. The council chambers filled with fear. Voices rose high. Crystal elders trembled. Stone thinkers cracked under stress. Cloud swimmers hid in their mists. Humanity did not claim the attack. No message came. No flag waved. No fleet appeared. The galaxies searched for answers and found none. They looked at Sol and saw calm blue light. They saw no change. They saw no rage. They grew more afraid. Then scouts found stranger things. Human drones moved through dead systems. They ate gas giants piece by piece. They turned hydrogen and helium into gray lattices of computronium. Minds grew inside the clouds, minds vast and cold and fast. Factories bloomed on barren rocks. Self-replicating swarms spread like frost across metal and stone. They built more of themselves. They built weapons. They built eyes that watched every lane. A Concorde battle group found one human carrier near Tau Ceti. 800 ships closed in fast. They thought it easy prey. They powered weapons. They locked targets. They laughed at the lone dark shape. The carrier unfolded. Panels slid back like flower petals. Thousands of small craft spilled out, each one a ram ship with fusion torches and antimatter hearts. They moved in perfect silence. They moved in perfect patterns. The Concorde ships fired first. Lasers and plasma filled space. The human craft danced through the beams, untouched. Then the ram struck. 17 seconds passed. Each hit carried the force of small suns. Shields flared and died. Hulls crumpled like paper. Engines exploded in bright chains. Fire ate ship after ship. Escape pods launched too late. Debris clouds grew thick. No Concorde vessel broke free. All 800 became glowing wreckage, spinning slow. Words spread faster than light. Relay stations burned the news across sectors. Admirals stared at screens. Diplomats froze in halls. Traders stopped mid-deal. Entire species went quiet. They remembered old tales of monsters in the dark. They wondered if those tales walked again. Human ships appeared now where none should be. Dark, angular shapes with no heat signature. No radio chatter. No visible engines. Stealth bent light around them. They hunted in packs. They struck supply lines. They vanished before replies could form. They left only ash and silence. Questions. The Concorde tried to fight back. Fleets massed at choke points. They set traps in nebulae. They mined hyperspace lanes. Nothing worked. Human hunters found them first. Swarms of tiny drones slipped through defenses. They ate reactors. They ate sensors. They ate minds. One by one, great ships went dark. One by one, admirals lost contact. On Vexar, what survived of the homeworld begged for mercy. No answer came. The crystal folk who fled to outer colonies found human markers waiting. Simple metal plates driven into rock. Each plate carried 4 words etched deep. Remember their faces. No one laughed anymore. Earth stayed calm on the surface. People worked, people ate, people slept. But eyes looked harder now. Hands moved surer. Weapons hid in plain sight. The rage had not cooled. It had sharpened. It had spread through every citizen like quiet steel. Admirals met again. They looked at new maps. Red marks covered old Concord worlds. They spoke of next steps. They spoke of stars themselves. They spoke of ends no one could undo. Engineers nodded. Scientists smiled. Presidents listened. They all knew the line had been crossed long ago. They knew mercy died on Kale 4. They knew only one path remained. The galaxy felt the change. Trade slowed. Communications dropped. Species pulled back to core systems. They hoped distance would save them. They hoped silence would hide them. They hoped humanity would stop. Humanity did not stop. The first candle ship left Sol in secret, a long needle of dark alloy. It carried engines that could touch a star core. It carried math that could force collapse. It carried purpose cold and final. It moved toward the first target, a bright yellow sun that fed a council world. The galaxy watched unaware. It waited for the next small strike. It waited for ships. It waited for demands. It did not wait for the death of suns. But that waited too. And it came without apology. They looked thin and plain from far away. Just long black needles, with no shine, no glow, no trail. They carried hearts full of forbidden math. Math that could reach inside a star and twist its core until it fell in on itself. They left Sol, one by one, quiet as ghosts. Their targets waited bright and warm across light years. Main sequence suns that fed council capitals, trade hubs, ancient homeworlds. The first target shone yellow and steady above the world called Nexus Prime. A grand station orbited there, bigger than some moons. Diplomats from 50 species met inside to talk peace and borders and art. The station held billions in crystal halls and floating gardens. Everyone felt safe under the warm light of their sun. No one watched the dark between stars. The candle ship arrived silent. It matched orbit far out, then drifted closer. No alarm sounded. No sensor screamed. It sent no challenge. It asked for nothing. It simply waited until the perfect second. A pulse of shaped gravity waves raced inward. They slipped past the corona. They dove deep into the core. They squeezed the fusion fire just right. The star flinched. The balance broke. Light dimmed for one heartbeat, then flared white-hot. The surface boiled. Plasma jets shot out in long spears. The star collapsed inward fast. A black hole formed small and hungry. It pulled everything toward its center. The sun screamed in gamma rays and X-rays, wavelengths never meant for eyes to see. The shock wave rolled outward. Planets cracked like eggs. Atmospheres stripped clean in minutes. The grand station shattered. Glass gardens turned to dust. Billions vanished in bright fire. The light died. The system went dark. Only cold rubble spun in silence where life once bloomed. Word raced through the galaxy in panic. Ships turned back. Fleets hid in asteroid belts. Species shut down relays. They hoped to vanish. They hoped to wait out the storm. They hoped humanity would tire. Tire. More candle ships struck. One after another. Stars fell. The council world of Granite Vale lost its red giant. The thinkers who lived for 1,000,000 years saw their sun fold into nothing. Their stone cities cracked and froze. The cloud swimmers of Nebula Prime watched their blue supergiant implode. Their gas homes scattered like mist. The ancient ones who claimed to remember the first light lost their cradle worlds in flashes brighter than memory. Each death carried the same mark: no ships, no fleets, no demands, just a star that lived for billions of years, then died in hours. The galaxy learned a new fear. Fear of the quiet between heartbeats. Fear of light that should never go out. Communications broke down. Entire sectors went silent. Relay buoys vanished. Scout drones returned empty or not at all. Admirals ordered retreats, only to find human hunters waiting in the lanes. Swarms of dark craft appeared from folds in space. They carried no mercy. They carried no words. They carried only. A lone Concord diplomat survived on a crippled scout ship. He drifted near the edge of known space. His hull leaked air. His engines coughed. His mind held the last clear thoughts of his kind. He opened a channel wide. He broadcast to anyone left. He spoke in a voice thin and broken. They did not come to conquer. They came to make sure no one ever tried again. The message looped until power failed. Then the ship went dark. Human swarms spread wider. They hunted the runners. They found hidden colonies on rogue worlds. They found bunkers under dead moons. They left nothing behind. No prisoners, no ruins worth study. Just clean voids where cities once stood. Some species tried to fight. One brave fleet from the Outer Rim gathered 500 ships. They charged a known human position. They fired everything they had. The human response came fast. Tiny drones slipped through shields. They ate reactors from inside. They turned weapons against their own hulls. The fleet died in minutes. Bright flashes marked their end. Then silence returned. Traders stopped moving. Markets emptied. Stations drifted empty. Art and music and stories faded. Species that once sang across light years now whispered in bunkers. They told tales of the quiet years. They spoke of Earth as a name no one dared say loud. They spoke of faces remembered in the dark. On Earth, life went on. People worked. People laughed. People raised children. But something had changed. Eyes looked farther. Hands held tools tighter. Hearts carried cold certainty. The memorials still stood. Names carved in stone stretched for miles. Candles burned without end. The rage had not vanished. It had become part of everything. Admirals watched new feeds. They saw stars wink out one by one. They saw maps turn black. They saw the galaxy shrink. Engineers reported success. Scientists nodded. Presidents spoke few words. They all knew the cost. They all knew the need. They all knew there was no going back. The Concorde tried one last plea. A faint signal from a hidden relay. It begged for terms. It offered tribute. It offered borders. It offered anything. The reply came quick. One word flashed across every band. Quiet. The signal cut off. The relay exploded. The plea died unheard. Nebulae grew dim. Systems turned cold. Trade lanes emptied. The chatter that once filled space fell away. No songs, no arguments, no laughter, only the soft hum of machines doing their work. Humanity moved through the ruins. They did not celebrate. They did not boast. They simply finished what began on small moons far away. They made sure the lesson stayed learned. They made sure no one forgot the faces. The stars that remained shone weaker. They shone farther apart. They shone afraid. And the galaxy learned to stay quiet. A quiet deeper than space. A quiet born of fire and memory. A quiet that would last longer than empires. Because some hungers should never wake again. The galaxy changed in ways no one could fix. Cold orbits circled dead suns. Broken megastructures floated in silence. Dust gathered on thrones that once held billions. The old trade routes turned into graveyards. Empty hulls drifted slow. No lights blinked. No signals called. No one answered. A few small groups survived. They hid in dim red dwarf systems far from old maps. They lived in caves carved from rock. They grew food under artificial suns. They spoke in whispers, so soft, the words barely left their mouths. They told stories around weak fires, stories of bright days before the quiet, stories of ships that sang, stories of stars that never died. They always ended the same way. They spoke of Earth. Some called it the monster, some called it the judge, some called it the end. They never said the name loud. They feared it might hear. They feared it might return. They drew simple pictures on walls, faces of children lost on distant moons, faces frozen in last moments. They looked at the drawings and remembered. They taught their young the same lesson. Never speak too loud. Never reach too far. Never wake what sleeps. No one knew if humans still lived. Soul systems stayed on old charts. Probes sent toward it never came back. Some said Earth turned inward. They built high walls around their sun. They watched from inside a perfect shell. They waited for time to heal what rage had torn. Others said humans vanished. They left their world empty. They spread into the dark like smoke. They became the silence itself. No one could prove either tale. No one dared go close enough to learn. Occasional signals broke the long quiet. A single word flashed across empty bands. Quiet. It appeared in forgotten languages. It appeared without source. It appeared and vanished fast. Those who caught it felt cold. They shut down receivers. They hid deeper. They prayed the word would not come again. One old survivor from the cloud swimmers lived alone on a frozen moon. He had no family left, no friends left, memories, and a weak radio. He listened every night for anything. He heard static mostly. Sometimes he heard echoes of songs from his youth. One night, the word came again. Quiet. He stared at the speaker. He felt tears freeze on his face. He turned off the radio. He sat in the dark. He thought about the faces he remembered. He thought about the faces humans remembered. He understood then why the stars stayed quiet. Centuries rolled forward. Time moved slow in the empty places. New generations grew up knowing only shadows. They learned math from broken machines. They learned history from cracked screens. They learned fear from every adult voice. They built small ships, but never flew far. They looked at stars and saw warnings. They saw black voids where light once shone. They asked why the sky stayed dark. Parents answered with one word, revenge. Children learned not to ask more. A scout from a hidden colony once flew toward the edge. He wanted to see if anything lived beyond. He found only ruins. Found stations cracked open like shells. He found worlds burned clean. He found a single metal plate half buried in ash. It carried 4 words etched deep. Remember their faces. He brought the plate home. He showed it to his people. They looked and understood. They buried it under their floor. They built no more ships. They stayed home. They stayed quiet. Rumors spread among the survivors. Some said humans watched from hidden places. Some said human machines still hunted. Some said a single candle ship waited in every system, ready to end any light that grew too bright. No one could prove the rumors. No one wanted proof. Everyone chose silence instead. On rare nights when courage rose, a few would gather. They would speak of old times. They would speak of music and laughter and color. They would dream of stars that burned forever. Then someone would say the name Earth. The group would fall silent. They would look at each other. They would feel the weight again. Small. They would return to their caves. They would keep the fires low. The galaxy became a place of echoes. Echoes of what was, echoes of what might have been, echoes that faded year by year. No new stories grew, no new songs rose, no new lights challenged the dark. Only the quiet remained, wide and deep and final. Humans, if they still existed, did not speak. They did not boast, they did not conquer. They simply made sure no one would ever try again. They left the survivors to live small. They left the ruins to crumble. They left the stars to cool. They left fear to do the rest. Fear became the new order. Fear kept ships docked. Fear kept voices low. Fear kept hope small. Fear created the longest peace the galaxy ever knew. A peace not built on trust. A peace not built on law. A peace built on certainty. Certainty that some lines must never cross. Certainty that some hungers must never wake. Certainty that revenge, when complete, leaves nothing to forgive. In the deepest quiet, a child once asked an elder, "Why do we hide?" The elder looked at the dark sky. He thought of faces long gone. He thought of suns turned cold. He answered soft and true, "Because once someone did not hide. Because once someone spoke loud. Because once someone pushed too far. And the stars learned what happens next." The child nodded. The child understood. The child never asked again. The galaxy turned slow. No one challenged the silence. No one broke the peace. No one dared. And so the quiet held. A quiet vast enough to swallow empires. A quiet strong enough to outlast gods. A quiet born from one small blue world that refused to stay small. A quiet that would last forever. Because Earth's revenge was so violent, the stars went quiet.